Hello and welcome back to another Fear the Walking Dead video, and today I'll be ranking every premiere that Fear the Walking Dead has had. So that's 8 seasons, 8 premieres, and just before we get into this, remember, this is just my personal opinion, so if you have a different personal opinion, I would love to know what your thoughts are down below. But without out of the way, let's jump right into this with number 8 is Season 8. This is easily by far the worst, and this episode is just hard to watch. The acting is terrible from Mo. This episode comes off the bat of, we just do a massive time jump, and now we've got to reintroduce our characters. And this episode tries to do a lot, and fails at everything, and having this episode anchor on Mo really does make this episode hard to watch, and it is a very bad start to the final season. Number 7 is Season 5. And this is solely because of how confusing the start of this episode is. It starts with a plane crash, and I can never get over that this episode feels like an episode 2 or a mid-season premiere. It's just very weird where we left our characters off in Season 5, and Season 6 has this big plane crash. You do get the mystery of with Al at the end of this episode, which I do like. It's just, for a premiere, you're meant to understand what's going on and be introduced to stuff, but this episode you spend a lot of the time being a bit confused, and I just don't like that. The start of Season 5 is just very confusing, which is not a good thing to start off your season. Number 6 is Season 2. And this is so low just because of how forgettable it is. Season 2 had the same issue with the season finale being very forgettable. Season 2's premiere has one interesting thing at the start, which is Operation Cobalt. And once you get off of the coast of LA and go down south, it just becomes, they're on a boat now. And it's a bit slow paced, a bit boring at times. It's just very forgettable. You have that big hype at the start of the episode, and it just fizzles out. It doesn't continue this pace, and that's what I really don't like about this. So the last two, I would say, are definitely bad episodes. This episode is just forgettable. Number 5 is Season 7, and this is easily one of the better episodes of the season. We get introduced to a very interesting character called Will. The world looks amazing. I really like the Fallout vibe in this episode with all the characters on the wear masks. The episode looks great. It's paced well. I liked the Will Strand situation. The only downside about this episode is that we get introduced to a cool character called Will, and then he's suddenly killed off at the end of the episode, and Strand's like, I'm the villain now. That's the only bad part about this episode, but every other part of this episode is very well done. Number 4 is Season 1, and this premiere is easily one of the most unique premieres in the entire Walking Dead universe because it takes place before the fall, and that's what makes it great. You see people going on about their days. You get iconic moments like Nick finding his girlfriend dead, right out on the street being hit by a car, and then bam, the world is still active. I remember seeing that, and that was just epic. It was mind-blowing. This episode really does the slow decline of civilization so well. It continues throughout the rest of Season 1, but this episode just starts up so well, with Nick killing a man and then crying to his mum, and they're going, okay, we got to go find the body. Oh, he's a walker. This episode is just so unique and so interesting and so gripping from start to finish. Number 3 is Season 4. It might be controversial to have this so high, but I really enjoy this episode, and that's because we get introduced to so many great characters like Al and John Dory, the best character of all time, and it explains well how Morgan went from The Walking Dead to Fear, and I really like this episode focused on Morgan, and it left us with a mystery at the end of the episode of what happened to the original Fear characters, because Morgan was attacked by Nick, Luciana, Alicia, and Strand, and then you're like, where's Madison? And I really like this first episode. It sets up the first half of the season very well, and the only downside I could say, I don't really like the way the episode looks, but outside with the episode looking like meh and terrible, the story is great, and you have some very interesting characters, and I'm so happy they focused on Morgan in this episode, so that we could properly explain and see how he got from one place to another. Number 2 is Season 3's premiere, and this episode is just absolutely phenomenal. It's the best season of the show, and it has one of the best premieres, but not the best, I have to say. This episode has it all. It has great characters like Troy. It has our characters all split up, so each character gets something to do. I really like that. You get Travis being an absolute badass punching walkers to death. You have Madison and Alicia, because they are women, being treated nicer than everyone else, and Madison going full on mole bear and stabbing Troy in the eye. And then you have Nick and Luciana kind of just being there. The only downside I would say about this episode is the walkers just suddenly being inside the base and ripping a man through a wall, and then everyone has to escape separately. That's the only downside I could put on this episode, is that the ending felt very rushed. But outside of that, this episode is amazing. Now, number 1 is season 6's premiere. This is easily my favourite episode of Fear the Walking Dead. They fix Morgan. It has so much mystery. And I really like that Morgan's been shot, he's gotten sick, and now walkers can't see him. And then you have a great villain, shame he got killed off in this episode, of the bounty hunter. Absolutely amazing episode. It looks amazing, sounds amazing. It just is amazing from start to finish. Unlike the previous episode, which I felt had a pacing issue right at the end, and walkers just had to be there. This episode makes sense all the way through. And just because Morgan's one of my favourite characters, he's a main focus of this episode, and they fix him. This episode fixed Morgan. I can't understate how much that meant to me for being such a Morgan fan. So this is my favourite premiere of Fear the Walking Dead. But this is just my opinion, so please tell me down below, what do you think? Do you agree with me? Do you disagree with me? I'd like to know what your rankings are down below. But this is me today, so goodbye, peace out, and I'll talk to you later.